Hey guys, so just before we begin, I want to remind you that I am offering coaching, and so if you're interested in deepening your personal or spiritual growth, feel free to click the link in the description and you can book a free discovery call with me. Otherwise, let's jump into the video. So today what I want to share with you guys is something that I personally do in my own life, and I've been doing for quite a few years now. And what that is meditating right before I work out. So the reason I do this is because I'm in love with working out from slightly higher states of consciousness. And what I've found for a long time now is that when you meditate, slip into a higher state of consciousness, work out, and then observe yourself very, very carefully, what you can see is that you are not actually working out. Your higher self is. And by this I mean the flow, the awareness that sits underneath your ego, that is what you're working out from. And you can tell because you feel fluid, you are flowing, you are tuned in. Everything you do feels like an expression of the universe. Another way I like to describe this is feeling a little bit like a spiritual warrior. And this is because what you're doing with this action of working out is you're kind of going to battle with your own mind, right? You, in this higher state of awareness, are deliberately going to that inner weakness inside of you, burning through it, and then coming out of that almost like a stronger soul, right? This stuff feels very spiritual to me. And I love to look at self-discipline in this kind of way, because this is just how working out feels to me these days, having integrated a bunch of spirituality and higher consciousness into it. So practically speaking, what I do with this meditation before working out is I put my workout stuff on, I sit down, and I set a timer for 20 or 25 minutes. And during this time when I meditate, what I'm doing is I'm quietening my mind down. And I'm doing this by deliberately focusing on my awareness. Now, if you're a regular meditator, you know what this is like. You become more inwardly still, and you feel yourself slowly becoming more and more aware of your experience and your consciousness. Now, what I'd like to do next is actually transition out of meditating and into working out as soon as possible. And the reason for this is because I love to feel tranquil, basically for as long as possible. And I'm sure you do too. And I find that if you can make this transition nice and quick, you can still work out from that kind of post-meditation high, where you feel slightly sedated, but in a peaceful and zen kind of way. And just so you know, meditating before working out, it's not just to get more calm or focused. And that's because for me, it's actually way, way more than that, right? It's to literally get a taste of God before you go in and be a warrior. Because consider this, the more God that you have, or by which I mean higher consciousness, the more higher consciousness that you have, the less attached you are to your mind. And when working out, this actually makes you a lot stronger. Because what you see in your experience is that this thing called pain that you feel, it's only really a label or a sensation in the mind. And when you're very, very conscious after your meditation, you can see that you have this sort of choice as to how much you identify with this thing and also what to call it, right? Is it called pain or is it just a sensation, right? In the end, what you learn after a while is that ultimately only you can decide what it is. And that's because you are the only one who can assign meaning to it within your own reality, because it's subjective. And so this gives you a lot of freedom to play around with detaching from this so-called pain when you're working out. Another reason I love doing this and meditating before working out is if you go to the gym to do your exercise, you might notice that how the gym looks and feels to you is different. And that's mostly because it looks a lot more divine. Now this can happen for you at various levels and depths. So on the one hand, it can just mean that the gym space looks a lot more calm and pure. Whereas on the other hand, if you're into the really deep spiritual work like me, it can mean you see God or the universe in not just the people, but also in the literal equipment that you're using. So this is where you begin to see consciousness in things and in non-sentient stuff. Now this is definitely a more advanced perception to have. But if you have it, you'll actually love it. And that's because you will feel like you're kind of seeing magic right before your eyes, right? And to give you guys some context, where the gym first appeared to me differently was when I realized that the gym, and thus reality, isn't actually anything other than a reflection of my own mind and consciousness. And so I had this little breakthrough where I realized whenever you go to the gym, whatever you are seeing there really is only ever a mirroring of your own internal world and level of consciousness. And to link this back to the meditation, I knew that the practice was working for me when what I started to feel inside of myself was, God, love, and higher consciousness. And I was then able to see those things in the gym too. And I never really thought this was possible because the gym is such a worldly and material place. At least I thought, because really it's just a matter of perspective. It's just a matter of level of consciousness. Right? Reality and everything it appears as is fluid and subjective. And you're only ever going to be seeing what you are. And when what you are is this, higher consciousness, you're going to be seeing a lot of the universe in both the gym, but also everywhere else that you go. That's for sure. Another reason why I always meditate before working out is because it makes thinking about your life a lot easier. Sometimes you might reflect on, whatever's going on for you in your life as you work out. And I find this is much easier to do, much more pleasant when you've done some meditation. Because where you come at things from is so much higher in terms of, your perspective. You have so much more clarity on your life. And especially because how your head feels, your headspace, it feels way, way clearer. So that's definitely good to have. Another reason that I always meditate before working out is that I love having deep insights. I love it. And I find it's a lot easier to have these deep insights when I've just done some meditation. I even think to myself sometimes, whether or not I would do this meditation I'm working out, if it just meant that I could have more of these deep and profound insights, right? These insights, they come in abundance when you're pre-workout. It's to literally raise your own level of consciousness. That's been my experience, at least. I also realized that it would be useful for me to share with you guys some things that I do that will hopefully help you to have similar experiences when doing this kind of thing. So here is a list of stuff that I do that tends to make this work for me. So 20 or 25 minutes of focused meditation, being in a near fasted state, retaining your energy, ideally for a minimum of 4 or 5 days, working out at a time of day that you perform your best at. So for me, it's like 5 p.m. Learning good spiritual practices and techniques. Now, I'm not going to teach them here in this video, but I do practice Kriya Yoga, and this mostly involves breathing and visualization exercises that help move prana upward, basically to facilitate the raising of your consciousness. And that's so when you're meditating, just so you're clear about why you want to do this, it's so you're not sitting there with just monkey mind. As that can happen if you just sit down and kind of expect something to happen. Right? What you got to do is you've got to train your awareness muscle, and you've got to do that through deliberate practice, and then you'll start to see some results. And then finally, we've got some bonus criteria, which you're more likely to have if you're very into the deeper side of spirituality. So if you've had previous awakenings, previous mystical experiences, and have also had a long-standing meditation practice in place, you're going to have an easier time with this. And that's because you're more familiar with what we could call the fruits of this work, which are the glimpses, the breakthroughs, and the awakenings. And having had these before, you kind of just know what to aim for next time you go in and you raise your level of consciousness. So that's it for me. If you've enjoyed this one, feel free to try this stuff out. Let me know how you get on. Otherwise, if you'd like more videos, then my friend, please do subscribe.